Thank you, Laura, Shelley, and Patrick. Good job. It was real informative. I enjoyed it, and I hope you will too. Next is our very own Dan Draney interviewing Lory Storm of the Nebraska 912 Freedom Project. There's a petition that you can sign, and for any further information, you can email Lory at nebfreedom, that's one word, nebfreedom@yahoo.com.
I'm Dan Draney for Give Me Liberty TV, and I'm here today with Lory Storm of the 912 Project. And Lory, can you just first tell us a little bit about your organization and what it means?
We are the Western Nebraska 912 Project. 912 Project was started by Glenn Beck after a Glenn Beck gathering a little over a year ago. And the idea behind it was to bring America back to the principles and values and unity we felt on September 12th after the attacks from the World Trade Center. And when I think back to that point, I think we were all Americans. We were all concerned for each other. We were all pulling for each other. We were all worried about our country. And we were much less polarized. There was much less hate. And so based on that theory, Glenn Beck came up with 9 principles and 12 values. That if you agreed with 7 of the 9 and 10 of the 12, you probably belonged to this group. And we thought that was a really good platform to base our group on. It wasn't political. It was about a patriotic love for this country and a belief that our rights are endowed by our Creator and not necessarily granted by government. And we strongly agreed with most of those, and we found a group of people in Western Nebraska that did as well, and we've been meeting and working on education about the Constitution and American issues and ideals and founding fathers ever since.
Okay. So what brings you to Lincoln at this time?
For the past 5 or 6 months, while the healthcare debate's been raging, we have been pretty concerned about what's going on in Washington and whether or not those people in Washington, D.C. were listening to the people. And we believed that they weren't and that they still aren't. And we started thinking about senators and representatives serving in Washington, D.C. and how they weren't truly accountable to the people in their states unless it was an election year. And so we started doing some research and found that 18 states allowed for recall of elected officials. And we thought that was an important step to sending a message to our elected officials that they could be reached and they did have to be accountable, even if it wasn't an election year. So we looked into it further and did some research, and we decided that we wanted to amend the Nebraska Constitution to give us the ability to recall any elected official. And so about 2 months ago, we sent in some language that we had borrowed from all those 18 states, the best parts of what we thought were the best parts of all of them, and we sent that in to the Secretary of State. Just about a couple weeks ago, we got our language and our petitions approved and sent out to us, and we are now on the campaign trail, if you will, trying to get signatures to get this amendment initiative on the ballot in November.
Okay. So the petition would allow Nebraska voters to sign a petition in the future. Once it becomes a constitutional amendment, Nebraska voters could sign a petition and they would be able to recall an elected official.
Correct.
And the petition doesn't make any distinction between federal officials and state and local officials, does it?
No, it simply says all elected officials.
Okay.
And we didn't take the fact that we were amending our Constitution lightly. We raised the bar. It's 5% higher in our amendment than it is in any other state as far as the number of signatures required.
So it's 30% of the registered voters who voted in the last election for that office.
Correct.
And most other states it's
most other states are
25
anywhere between 15 and 25 to get it onto the ballot.
Okay.
And then a majority votes yea or nay.
Well, Lory, I know you and most of us, all of us even, don't take amending the Constitution lightly, the state Constitution or the federal Constitution. Why should people vote or sign this petition to get this constitutional amendment on the ballot?
Well, we don't think this is about politics. It's not about Democrats or Republicans. This is about the accountability of our government. And it's accountability I think any of us can see by watching what's been happening in Washington, D.C., that we have lost as people. We have, for too long, put our noses to the grindstone, done our jobs, and worked as conservatives, and we have lost touch with what's been going on with our elected officials, and in turn, we've allowed them to lose touch with us. We take full responsibility for the last 50 years worth of elections that we should have been watching closer, but if we allow this to continue, it is likely that we will lose the liberties and freedoms we've enjoyed up till now in this country. And I also think it's extremely important to remember that this is a complete grassroots effort. This has been funded and worked by people who all have full-time jobs, that have been paying out of their pocket to copy petitions and send these things across the state. We think this is important for anyone in Nebraska, regardless of how they're registered, to be able to have a say in government and to be able to hold those accountable who don't do what's best for the state of Nebraska.
Thank you, Lory.
Thanks.
This is again Lory Storm of the 912 Project here in Nebraska, and I'm Dan Draney for Give Me Liberty TV.
I'm W.A. Mitchell. America, carry on.